Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Mark Wade. Based in Rhode Island, Mark is an extremely talented and much sought after tattoo artist. During the program, we're learning why and how Mark's craftsmanship came about. We'll view and discuss some of his stunning creations, and in the process, come to better understand and appreciate how he goes about creating his unique and very appealing tattoos. Let's start by meeting Mark and then hear about and enjoy some of his artistry. Welcome, Mark. So delighted you're able to be here.
Man, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Jay. It's really cool, man. I really appreciate you.
Oh, I came across, enjoyed as many other people, terrific article about you and your craftsmanship in the Globe a couple of weeks ago. So eager to hear more, have you share with viewers how you go about your work and definitely let them enjoy some of it. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if you just share a little bit about your background and then a bit about how that led into your interest in becoming a tattoo artist.
Um, yeah, I mean, I was born originally in Texas. I don't know how far back you want me to go, or if I just started the art career, but originally born in Texas, I traveled a bunch as a kid. When I was younger, we moved out to California, and going through high school and all of that, everybody's kind of asking you what you want to do for the rest of your life. And being such a young teenage kid, and YouTube just came around, there was all these conspiracy videos that would pop up, and I got super into those and thought they were wild and crazy. And one of the things that was a big uh, point in those videos was, like, at the time they were talking a lot about 2012 being the end of the world or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I graduated high school in 2010. So I started to think about it in the most realistic terms I could. Was well, if the world ends in 2012 and I've got 2 years left to live, what could I do for 2 years that I could enjoy doing, that I wouldn't, if life kept going, wouldn't be like, oh man, I wish I hadn't picked this choice, that would be something like beneficial and scalable, and I could maybe afford an apartment and a dog. That was my goals at 15. That was it. And
Sounds good.
it was at that point, then I realized art was my favorite class, and then I didn't want to be a starving artist. I wanted to at least be able to afford the apartment and a dog, because otherwise that'd just be a miserable 2 years. So then I was came across the idea of tattooing, and once I decided on that, maybe a week later I'd got my apprenticeship through some of my family. They knew somebody that his husband was an artist, and from then on there, every week, every day I could be in there, I was in the shop trying to learn how to start this process and get the ball rolling. um, it was obviously, the world didn't end, and I'm happy to be still doing this. I picked, very well, unknowingly well, and I've had a lot of really good mentors along the way that have really helped guide and mold the decisions that I've made and where I've gone with this. And I've been really, really fortunate to continue to do this and provide for my family, doing something that I love so much. Um, yeah, I think that covers the beginning.
Yeah, no, that's fabulous. Few of us have a sense of what we want to do early in life like you, and to see whether it was the impetus of 2 years left to
Right.
cram it all in or beyond, like it most definitely is a fabulous story. What were some of the milestones? Because it was a process, I think, for you to become the expert that you are right now. What were some of the challenges or developments that you look back and say, that really made me who I am now?
Um, I think there was several, of course, like with any kind of career, when you look back on it, you don't realize how big those hinge points are. Obviously, the first one was that initial decision to say, okay, like, if I were to die in 2 years, I could enjoy doing this for 2 years and not regret having done what I did. And then once we made it past the 2 year mark, it was like, oh, I actually need to take this seriously. Like I need to stop treating this like a kid. So that was a good hinge moment. And then trying to figure out what that meant. And I think another one was who you listen to was important, because while your friend may give you advice that's right, if their specialty is electricity or plumbing, what are they going to know about tattooing, right? And so each of those little niches of business or whatever have little differences, even though there's some similarities. And it took me realizing that to surround myself with my mentors who were experts in the field and could guide and teach me correctly, to put myself around them as much as I possibly could. So it started out where I was working in bad shops. I didn't know anything, and I was just trying to figure it out. I wasn't doing good art at all, and realizing like, okay, I need to put myself around these guys who do know what they're doing. And so I started going to a lot of seminars, and through those seminars, all I realized was, oh, this isn't enough time. Like I'm learning little things, but say I'm getting 1% of what their mastery is, and then trying to apply that. There's so much that I don't know that I'm trying to pull back into this, that the room for error is way too high. So then it was, well, I need to be around these guys all the time. And if I can be around them all the time, maybe I can increase who I am by 10%. And then if I'm just 10% as good as them, then that would still be substantially better than where I'm at now. Mm-hmm. So then it was trying to build those relationships through those seminars and put myself like guest spotting and working around those guys. I traveled the country a lot to put myself in those situations. I moved to New York City. I moved to Austin, Texas. Like we were all over the place, to Dallas, and just to try to be around those guys all the time and really pick up not only mannerisms but business and just art etiquette, and really enthrall myself in the system, and just, I guess, in a certain sense, sacrifice myself to the whole, So
Terrific, terrific. These days, now that you've reached the status that you have now, how do you envision and going about creating the tattoos? A little bit about the process that's involved, your thinking, your collaboration with clients. What's involved there before we enjoy some of your work?
I don't. It's going to sound weird, but I don't feel like I can take much credit. So what I mean by that is, when I'm sitting with a client, we're designing it together. And in a certain sense, to me, art is like you have 1 foot in understanding and 1 foot in chaos, and you're just riding the line the whole way. Anytime I've ever done like a painting, or anytime I ever do like my own art, I feel like I kind of get in my own way, and like my ego's in the way, and it feels like it's trying to tell a story, but there's no chaos. It's just like refined, too refined. When I'm designing with the client, there's this spirit between it, that we're both wrestling with the idea, and we're both trying to find the idea that they want. And it feels a lot more real than when I'm trying to force it out. And I feel like what a client being there with me allows me to do is get myself out of the way. And then we're both trying to figure out what it is together. So I know how to do the technique, but it's not my design. It's not their design. It's true art. It comes together as its own thing. And that's like what it becomes. I know that's really abstract, but yeah.
Before we enjoy some work, is the final design sketched out, created, thought about beforehand, or is there some give and take throughout the process?
A lot of give and take. The design, it's pretty roughed out before we start. But beforehand, like say clients are booking out 3-4 months in advance, right? I don't have anything designed when they get there. When they get there, I've got maybe some photos together, of references they've sent and references I liked that are similar, but that's it. And I've had people show up and be like, hey, I know I said I wanted roses on my leg, but actually, I want pansies on my shoulder. And it's like, okay, we're doing pansies, like that happens a lot. And so
Mhm.
what initially started as like, I got tired of, I would draw something for like 12 hours and then have to redraw it another, what started as like, I'm trying to save myself time kind of opened up a door for us to like actually make something more meaningful, make something that fits the body more, and make something again to me that just feels more real. There feels like there's more like essence to it. There's more spirit to it that I attribute to God, but like call it what you want to call it. Like it there's something there that like whenever you find it, both you and your client are like, ooh, that's it. That's cool. I really like that. And it feels right. So keep chasing that.
Right. Well, we're fortunate to have this little video clip of you working with this client, and we're gonna start it. Feel free to add some commentary, and I think we'll stop it a couple of times throughout to highlight some of the stages that you and the client go through in the creation before the final product. So let's enjoy the clip and hear some insight as we go.
Yeah, pretty sure. Yeah, this is exactly. You can just see him drawn on the iPad with it there. We picked out some references we liked, and right here, I'm. This is the preliminary to what I call redneck Photoshop, where I'll print it out and then we lay it on the body on paper, which might be like the next frame actually.
Before we get to there, with like the iPad now, how
Mhm.
has technology
Tremendous.
changed the approach to tattooing over the years since you've been involved, at least?
So I started 2010 technically. Is right when I finished high school. I say I started in 2011, or finished high school. We had to draw everything out by hand when I started, and iPads kind of came in like 4 or 5 years later. And it has helped out so much because there was a lot of, especially being a newer artist and not a good artist either. There was a lot of error that you couldn't sort out. You had to not expect, but sort of ask your client to trust you.
Mm.
And when you're a newer artist trying to figure things out, that becomes an even harder hurdle for people to get over. And I don't blame them for that, but you'd spend a tremendous amount of time drawing. And that is a good thing. It's not that iPads have taken away from that. It's that they've allowed us to figure out those errors more efficiently to where it's
Mhm.
like, oh, this doesn't curve exactly how I want it to, or you'd finish rendering something out. Like what would happen to me is a lot. I'd draw something for 12 hours and then realize, oh, I wish this flower was a little more over here. That'd be it. But now I'd have to redraw the whole thing just to try to get that little shift. So then you're
Yeah.
rough sketches to like try to emulate to your client, like, hey, it's going to kind of feel like this, but you can't show a finished version because you spent 12 hours just kind of figuring out all the placement. And the iPad would just kind of let you like really fine tune. Okay, shift this a little bit. Does that work? Yeah, that works. Okay, I can pull this up this way. So it's, man, I wouldn't want to draw without it, but I also like if we lost all power, I'd go back to doing it the old way. It would just take me a month to do one tattoo. Like it would just take a long
Yeah.
time. But
Quite a difference. Let's continue and feel free to add any insight as we go.
okay. Yeah. So this is the redneck Photoshop. that's
Back there.
that's where we're talking about how, and there's a lot going on in these first few frames. So she's got some filigree that's kind of coming out of those flowers. And I'm just talking about trying to anchor it onto those flowers and making sure it feels right. We're making sure it fits that area appropriately. Yeah, we did the same thing with this rose you're looking at too.
We'll continue here. Let it go for a while.
Yeah. Yeah, just staring at it, trying to make sure it fits well. That's the hardest part with all of this, I think, is like, and especially since the industry's improved so much so quickly. There's so many incredible artists. Um, you really start to see like people can render an incredible piece of art, but to me, one of the most important things is how it fits the body. And so trying to take the time to do what I call the redneck Photoshop, trying to make sure like that flower feels like the appropriate size in that area. It feels like it would grow there, and trying to add to the anatomy too, because especially since most of my clients are female, there's really easy ways that you can like cross over the anatomy or design over the anatomy that do
Mm,
not help enhance the body at all. It actually can take away from the natural
mm.
curves, the natural movement of the body. So trying to be sure you're paying attention to that, and it's different on everyone. So really just taking the time to be sure you're doing it the best you can, as opposed to just trying to do just a good chunk. You know, people, I'm sure you've seen them where like portrait, and you'll have like an arm and it'll start looking like totem poles.
Yeah.
It's just like a bunch of portraits stacked on top of each other.
Yeah.
And you know, that was really cool 10 years ago, but like now it's like, okay, how can we like really refine this and make this
Mhm.
something I'd want to see in a museum, as opposed to and something that would belong in a museum, you know, as opposed to just like one good tattoo and just one good tattoo, you know.
All right. Well, let's watch the rest of this clip and then we're gonna move on.
Okay. It was a fun day.
But I know just what you run from. And what matters me, who's that? Just stop it, oh yeah. Bounce back, feeling like you're
Super fun.
feeling now. When things must be your cry. With my way,
Yeah, broke it right into that frame. That was cool.
myself,
I had a
but
good time with them.
ain't gonna cut you down. It's
She's super good people too.
It's
Super.
fabulous. Just to give us a sense, how long, what's the time investment
So that
and
one I believe was one day.
collaboration?
So with designing too, especially if you're coming for like a new tattoo, we're trying to break it up a little bit different now, because it's just tough on people. But initially, with what you saw there, that'd be like with design process and everything. I think it was like 12, 14 hours, something like that.
Wow.
And it's just a lot of work, you know, like it may not feel like it's a tremendous amount of coverage, but you know, there's a tremendous amount of thought and there's a tremendous amount of energy that goes into designing something to this degree. And I think, I definitely think it's worth it. I definitely uh, wouldn't want to do it another way, because it makes me feel like I'm giving the absolute best quality work that I can. And with something permanent, that seems important, you know, so.
Definitely, definitely. Well, let's move on because we want to enjoy as much of your work as we can.
Sure.
And this one, we're going to see different, as it says there, variations on rose, which I think has become one of your signature tattoos. And the floral designs is what people, I think, enjoy coming to you and
Yes, sir.
having you create with them.
Yeah. Yeah. We're very lucky.
How did your interest in floral design come about, and
Uh,
why does that seem to be one of your specialties now?
um, the easiest way to put it is, I had already, like, through the process, through my career, I had always sort of done organic tattoos. And like whether it's floral or birds or nature, it just kind of always happened. And um, I had a mentor who said, pick something that you can be, if not the best, number two at,
Mm.
and use that for your town, and then scope that out to your state, and then scope that out to the country, and then scope that out to the world, and then really narrow all that down. And then whatever that is, laser focus on that. And so after having that conversation and putting a lot of thought into it with him, I'd kind of realized, because it made me notice the pattern that I had been doing organic tattooing the whole time, and I enjoyed doing it. So it was like, okay, well, who is the best at that? And I found my mentor at the time, a mentor now. At the time, he wasn't, but at the time, he was the best floral artist. His name was Phil Garcia, phenomenal floral artist. And he was who I considered to be the best. And I thought, all right, looking at his stuff, I may not be able to be better than him, but I do think that I could be at least number two. And I
Mm.
applied that scope all the way out. And I was like, yeah, I think I could do that. That could be fun. And so laser focused, started putting it out there on social media and through any clients that would email in like, hey, I'm trying to focus primarily on flowers. So if you're trying to do that, cool. All the projects are going to push to the side at the moment. And it stuck. People loved it. And I still love doing it. I mean, I have other colleagues who've gotten really burnt out on their style, and
Mm.
I feel fortunate that like not only do I continue to enjoy doing this, but I also continue to feel like there's more to improve. So yeah.
Okay, well, let's enjoy and we'll see the variety, the way you've continued to develop this specialty over the years. Feel free to add anything as we enjoy the different variations now.
Okay. This one.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, those are fun. Those darker roses are cool. People getting on their neck like that's so crazy to me. I love that type of flower. Those are so pretty.
Fabulous, fabulous. So do people come in just requesting, they look at some of your past work and request that? How does that part go into the process?
Every now and then you do get somebody who's like, I want that exact rose. And it's like, I'm not doing that again. I try to make sure, yeah, I try to treat this like how it would be in real life, in the sense that like I want each rose to be for each person, and no rose is the same. So I don't want it to be like replicas of the same flower over and over again. Ideally, like, there needs to be differences, because in the wild you'd run into a bunch of variety. And even here, how we're setting up our home studio, I have a garden outside, and the idea is like we'll take photos of those flowers as they come in, and apply those kind of just as with the same idea. Yeah.
And we have one more clip that we want to enjoy,
Yeah, awesome.
which is right here. And we're just going to get it ready. And please add what we're going to see here, because I don't think there's any audio with it.
Yeah, so you got your blue jay, there's an armband in the back. This was for her son that passed. So the blue jay's holding on to a shamrock. There's a ladybug on the shamrock. Crystals coming out of like a crescent moon wave with feathers. And I mean, this one was, I mean, for example, this was three 12-hour days.
Wow. Wow.
And she's tough. She came in from, I want to say, Florida. Very, very sweet woman. And even on those 12-hour days, I think the last night we were still there till 2 3 in the morning. And I mean, I'm also a perfectionist, so I would love if I could come back into this one more time, or just be sure, that like these little edges and stuff like that are just tightened in just how I want them to be. But that's the nature of the game, is you're always trying to step that up. But
what's some of the reaction and feedback you've gotten from both clients and others in the field about your work?
from clients, I mean, generally, like, people are really, really, really warm, really positive. And I feel like we receive a lot of love. Like, I don't have, every now and then you get somebody who's like a knucklehead, but that's in any walk of life. Like, somebody's going to be, upset somewhere. You can't make everybody happy. With colleagues, I mean, I think we all look at each other with a certain respect, that we're, especially since tattooing's developed so much in the last 2 decades. I think we're all looking at each other, kind of patting each other on the back, like, happy for each other, because we're all trying to improve, but also how much it's grown and how much we're all kind of helping the whole community move forward. Yeah, I don't know about my work in particular. I've had people tell me, that I've inspired them or encouraged them, and that still feels weird to me. Like, that still feels bizarre to me, because in my head, it's like, there's always that sort of yeah, but there's so much work to do, and there's so much to, like, these little things I want to improve, like I was talking about, like that never ends. So even though I can look back at my work and see it's gotten better and improved, it never feels like enough. You're always trying to make it a little bit better. So, I think we all have that as artists. I think, any kind of creative needs to have that to them. Otherwise, maybe that's why it gets boring to some of my colleagues,
Well, I want to, as we continue last few minutes of our conversation, want to just show viewers some of your other fabulous work.
Thank you. Yeah.
And as we're enjoying it, what you mentioned, the state of the industry,
Mhm.
is it continuing to grow as
Mhm.
it seems to be from my viewpoint?
A lot of people coming into it. Which is, I mean, the artists now, the equipment's improved so much that people can just focus on the art. And that used to be such a hurdle. It used to
Mhm.
be you really had to spend a tremendous amount of time learning the medium. And then you could start to, on the back end, pull your art into it. And now it's starting to be that medium threshold's getting a lot lower, to where if you know a lot about art, once you kind of figure out the tools, application is a lot more straightforward than it used to be. And there's a lot of people teaching now. When I started out in this, man, there wasn't a lot of people who were willing to give you the time of day. It wasn't until I was in 5, 6 years that people were like having seminars and willing to talk about it more openly. And even then, you had to pay a lot to do it, and that was okay. I was totally willing to make that sacrifice. Um, it's just nice to see that it's sort of like grown the way it has. There's so many really, really phenomenal people coming in that just do incredible stuff.
It's terrific.
It really is.
In closing, what are some of your current or upcoming plans, projects with your business, with your craftsmanship?
Um, trying to find, trying to like, currently we just opened up a private studio in East Greenwich, Rhode Island. And the current plan right now is to try to balance things out a little bit more, because a 12, 14 hour day isn't realistic for most people. It's a long day, especially when you're going through trauma like this. It's much more of an endurance event than it is like anything else. So I want to find a balance there for people to be able to not feel like it's so daunting, and also to spend more time with my family, spend more time with my wife, and make sure that, like, everything is good, balance things out more, I think, you know.
Terrific. And your business is The Body Florist?
Yes, sir. Body florist, Mark Wade. You can
And
find me at Mark Wade Inc. on Instagram. And yeah, that'd probably be the best way to get a hold of us there.
terrific. Well, we'll have that in the credits for sure. And Mark, unfortunately, we've come to the end of the program. I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be
Thank
here.
you.
Fascinating. Really enjoyed hearing about your story, your dedication to the
Thank you.
craft, and how well it's paid off with these amazing artwork
Mm,
that you share with people. And I know they're so pleased to be the recipients of. So continued success with future endeavors.
thank you, sir. No, it honor to be here, man. And thank you again for reaching out. And it's been fun, dude. I really, uh, you could talk about this forever. 30 minutes went fast. So
And sure
I
did. Well,
appreciate it.
you made it very engaging. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us, and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.